vRealize Operations Manager on its own is a powerful tool for monitoring your virtual infrastructure, but it lacks visibility into other areas of your environment. It's when we start connecting other pieces of the vRealize suite that we can really shed some light on the bigger picture. Adding vRealize Log Insight, vRealize AI, vRealize True Visibility Suite, vRealize Network Insight, and vRealize Automation brightens our scope and gives us context to the data we rely on. Jumping into Log Insight, we can see our overview dashboard showing events, error events, exception events, and warning events. If we jump to Interactive Analytics, we can view our events and choose to open the specific event in vRealize Operations Manager. In VROps, we come to the summary page for that object. If we click on the Logs tab, we can see all the events for that object the Log Insight is sending in. If we go over to the notification button, we can see a selection here that says Create Alert from Query. Click on this, brings up a new box, allows us to set a name, a description, and recommendation for the alert, along with an email or the ability to send directly to vRealize Operations. We can set a fallback object if a matching object isn't found, set criticality level, and auto cancel to clear the alert if it hasn't triggered within a time period. We also have an option here to input any of our webhook URLs if we want to send this alert to an external application. With vRealize AI, we can manage our performance on the fly using reinforcement learning to dynamically self-tune our virtual infrastructure. We can look at our various data centers, and vRealize AI will let us know which ones are optimized or underperforming. If we click into one of the data centers, we can see all of the hosts within our cluster, and again, which ones are optimized or needs improvement. Clicking in further on the cluster gives us a deeper range of vision and key metrics. If we click on the vRealize actions that occurred, vRealize AI will let us know what it did at that time. We can see from the pop-up box that cache size was decreased because vRealize AI predicted this would improve write latency by almost 94% compared to the current values. The vRealize True Visibility Suite is a collection of management packs that can be installed into vRealize Operations Manager to collect metrics and events from various hardware and software vendors. Once a management pack is installed, it will contain out-of-the-box metrics, alerts, dashboards, and reports, and integrates into the Capacity Engine and Predictive Analytics Engine to give us further clarity into our environment. Relationship and dependency mapping gives us a complete full-stack view into our environment. Starting at our virtual machine, we can see not only the data store, but the virtual volume and the common provisioning group that the virtual volume belongs to. We can see the Microsoft SQL Server instance that resides in this VM, along with the databases, queries, jobs, and wait types. We can see the switch this VM is utilizing for traffic and the ports on that switch. We can look at the load balancer. We can look at the Microsoft IIS web server, along with the applications and websites coming in from IIS. On the left side of our VM, we can again not only see the ESXi host, but the Cisco UCS Blade, the UCS Fabric interconnects, and the chassis itself. vRealize Network Insight allows us to deliver intelligent operations for our software-defined networking and security. With its integration into VROps, we can get better network visibility, plan our app security, and troubleshoot our virtual and physical networks. If we navigate to an object we want to troubleshoot, we can open the Actions tab and click on Open in vRealize Network Insight. From here we can see any problems that might be affecting any sort of performance. Similarly, we can look at traffic patterns if there's a challenge with the application. If we select an object that is presenting some challenges and jump into the troubleshooting workbench, we can see in the anomalous metrics that we have an increase in port traffic. Let's go ahead and find out where that increase is coming from. Going back to our original context here, if we click on Open Traffic Details in vRealize Network Insight, we can start to look at all the traffic for this VM and find out if there's any spikes or where the flow is coming from. In this case, we can see there's quite a bit of information flowing between two specific VMs, and we can spot our source VM and our destination VM. When it comes to vRealize automation, we can look at our deployments from two different personas, the developer and the VI admin. The first is a developer whose primary concern is to be able to quickly deploy new workloads when needed. We can choose blueprints or applications within our SDDC or AWS or Azure. This is where our integration with the VROPS occurs. We can gather pricing information from VROPS to determine where the application will be placed according to our budget. We can also choose placement based on SLAs or security requirements. A developer can also take a look at their deployments to see how they're functioning without logging into vRealize Operations Manager. We can click on Production Deployment and see our topology, our history, or pricing for the deployment from the last month standpoint or month to date. If we zoom into the MySQL piece here, we can see the breakdown between compute, storage, and additional services, again coming from vRealize Operations Manager. We can also monitor our front-end VMs and see our CPU, memory, IOPS, and networking metrics, again coming in from VROPS over the last week. The second persona we want to take a look at is our VI admin. We can search our deployment and jump directly to the deployment and directly into the virtual machines that maintain this application. Clicking on the Metrics tab gives our admin the ability to see the various connected parts with the VM as the focal point. You can see our guest OS and application services. We can click the host to see which cluster, storage, and networking components support the application. We can also see how the vRealize automation components relate to the application and the SDDC. Switching over to the Dashboards tab, we jump right in and see our project pricing per month, or we can look at our automation environment overview. This shows our cloud zones, projects, deployments, blueprints, virtual machines, and cost information. If we want a more detailed look at the shopping cart example we've been using, we can jump into a custom dashboard that shows relationships between application and infrastructure, KPIs, OS and applications, alert information, costing, and even the measurement of availability and response time. As we can see, the power of vRealize Operations Manager is vast. But when we were able to utilize vRealize Log Insight for the collection of logs, network traces, configuration files, and messages, vRealize Network Insight for path detection and traffic monitoring, vRealize True Visibility Suite for hardware and application relationship mapping and troubleshooting, vRealize AI for cluster optimization, and vRealize Automation for rapid application deployment and monitoring. This is when the power of vRealize Operations Manager can grow exponentially to give you advanced, unmatched control over your environment.